policy.
Hey everyone, welcome to the LGBTQ Voice. I'm Tracy Welch alongside Eileen Dugas. Each week we invite guests on the show. We talk about resources, events, health and wellness, things that come up in history, and what's happening in and around the South Coast community. And welcome, Eileen.
Hi everyone, my name is Eileen Dugas. I'm the South Coast LGBTQ Network Coordinator, the Network Coordinator. This show is presented by the South Coast LGBTQ Plus Network. We are a nonprofit organization working with LGBTQ plus groups and allied organizations to build and maintain a comprehensive network for the LGBTQ plus individuals and families in Southeastern Massachusetts. Tonight's show sponsor is Humphrey, Colville, and Coleman Insurance Agency, located right here in New Bedford for all of your insurance needs. Don't overpay for flood insurance. They consistently save their clients 50% or more. For sponsorship opportunities, please contact Leo at newbedfordguide.com. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today, we will talk with our special guest, Jean-Denis Couillard from Banzi. And as always, if you have questions, you want to say hi, put your questions in the comment section. We will see them and we will get to you at certain breaks in the show. So Tracy and I will respond to them, or our guest will respond to them. So feel free to put those messages in there so we can have a little conversation.
Sounds good. So I want to remind everybody that kids in the South Coast, young adults ages 14 to 24, we have NBAD, the New Bedford Alliance of Gay and Lesbian Youth. Because of COVID-19, our kids haven't been able to use the center. We actually closed it right when we knew that we should. But we have a meeting on Thursday night still at 5 o'clock. So if you're ages 14 to 24, join NB Adley, A Perfect Place Facebook page. We want to make sure that we keep connected with the kids, the youth. I keep saying kids. My son's 33, guys, so he's my kid. And make sure that, we can do our check-ins, see what's going on with our, kids, and make sure they're safe and any needs that they have, that we can kind of help them through it. So we want to definitely give a shout out and please welcome Trans Health Navigator Jean to the show. Welcome, Jean.
Hi, thanks so much for having me today.
Oh, we appreciate it. So he was supposed to be on our show last year, but we had to make some changes and whatnot. And it's very important what Jean does in the community. So can you tell us what your position is at Banzi and the area serviced by Banzi?
Sure. So Banzi is a large nonprofit organization. We work with individuals and families throughout Southeast Massachusetts. It's based in Brockton, so most of our services are in Brockton, but we have them kind of spread out throughout the state in the area. So my service area particularly is mostly Plymouth County, but also Bristol, Norfolk County. Basically, if you're south of Boston, kind of on the east side, I probably serve you. And then in terms of my position, as Tracy mentioned, I am a trans health navigator. And so what that means is I am a trans person who works with other trans and non-binary people. And I help to connect them with different services or help to navigate them through different processes that they may be undergoing. So that might look like something like finding a medical provider who has some trans expertise. It could be searching for a mental health care provider, helping with transportation of various things, health insurance issues, housing matters, if people need food, if they need supplies, if they need community, anything like that. Basically, it's very individualized services that are tailored specifically to that individual's need. So we sit down, they tell me a little bit about their life and some of their goals, what they hope to accomplish that they might need a bit of a hand with to help them make the process a little bit smoother. And we just kind of go from there.
So one of the things I want to give a shout out to you for is somebody in our community last year was having issues at home. It wasn't safe, and he was having top surgery. He needed a safe place to recoup for 2 weeks, and you were able to help him find a place in Boston. And even though you're Brockton area, this individual lives in and around the New Bedford area. So I definitely want to give a shout out that people reached out to you, and you were able to assist this young man and make sure that he was safe for the 2 weeks that he needed to recover before returning home, which he felt wasn't safe enough to have surgery and come home to. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you so much for the shout out. I was very happy that I was able to assist him in that situation. It's really tough, for sure.
Yes, definitely. So the name of the program is TCORE, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And can you tell us what that stands for, TCOR?
Sure. So that stands for the Trans Community Outreach, Resources, and Empowerment Program. And that kind of encapsulates what we're looking to do. I'm hoping to meet different trans and non-binary people in the community, engage them in our program, and help connect them with resources. And hopefully throughout this process, help them to feel really empowered in their lives and in their situation in order to take the actions that are going to get them to where they want to go.
How did this program get started? Do you know, were you there for that, the beginning of this program?
Well, I wasn't there for like the grant writing process that led up to it. So my supervisor, Jesse Pack, saw that there was a need in the community for services for trans and non-binary people. I also serve gay, bi, and queer men as well, doing STI and HIV and hepatitis C testing. And we noted that, they also could benefit from some additional services in our community around sexual health services. And so, he applied for and received a grant, and they were able to bring me on, and that was the start of the program. So when I came on, I helped to develop what the program would look like, and then get started with outreaching to our community and getting to know all the fabulous people in the Brockton area.
Thank you.
I was going to say, one of the things that Eileen has been working on behind the scenes is a resource guide. A lot of people don't know where to go and where a safe place to go is, never mind is the doctor LGBTQ plus friendly. So I know that behind the scenes, we put that on our plate, but there's just all these things that come up ahead of it that it's just nice to know there's other resources. We got Fenway, we have Greater New Bedford Health, we work with Twist, Seven Hills Behavioral Health. I forget who else. There's so many that we work with right now in the community. And we represent we tell everybody from Providence basically to Cape Cod. So that's like a wide, circle that we try and help the community at. Excuse me. So when I found out about you and what's going on with Banzi, and I shared private message with you, I said, hey, you got to join the Mess with Island gay page. Oh, don't forget this page. And I give them shout outs, and I just think it's important that we keep sharing. And right now, there's a Plymouth Pride gay. There's a Plymouth gay page now. There's a Central Mass gay page for lunch. So I share a bunch of resources and whatnot on those pages. It's just really important to share the resources and let people know in the community what's needed out there.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially for like a non-urban area, particularly, that kind of resource sharing among all of our different networks is so vital to our community, and kind of building that up and making it easier for people to find those resources.
On the new website, we just have, I don't say just have, the COVID-19's up right now, but we're hoping to have a whole list of services in the future that we can kind of post and let people know that these are the services that are available or that we feel is safe enough for you to check out. I guess it's hard, I'm not an individual, but I could just imagine going to a place and not feel comfortable with the doctor. I mean, I've gone to places that I don't feel comfortable with the doctor because of my weight. They always ask me, have you always been this big? Have you ever thought of surgery? Never, not off the bat. Hey, you know what? Have you ever tried a diet, or what's going on with your weight? It's something I can help you with. Lately, all they want to talk about is surgery, so, and I didn't feel comfortable with that doctor right off the bat. I just think it's important that we try to make people feel as comfortable in the community as we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, discrimination is a really big issue that impacts our community for sure. And it's really helpful, especially like if you're able to have an advocate or someone that you can talk to ahead of time to just kind of, think ahead of time of, what might I want to say? How do I want to frame this? What are some of the needs that I have that I need to communicate with my medical provider? And do I feel comfortable doing this? Like I said, discrimination is it's such a big issue in terms of not receiving adequate care or not receiving care at all sometimes from providers.
Definitely. I think that a lot of times, or there have been times, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but there have been times where, individuals that I speak to don't even get past the front desk or a phone call. They never even get into the office and they're already uncomfortable. What do you recommend, or what are your suggestions around that?
I think it's a good idea to communicate ahead of time with that provider if it's someone new, especially if you're a trans or non-binary person. Just kind of inquiring, has this provider seen trans people in the past? Have they had any sort of training in terms of trans medicine? Or would they be open to accessing resources that could help them develop those kinds of skills and that knowledge base to provide adequate care to trans and non-binary people.
So what you're saying is if I'm Fred, Fred's my imaginary friend, that I call up the doctors and I say, hey, I'm Fred and I'm a trans individual. How does your doctor feel about that? You know, what training has he had? Those are okay questions to ask when I'm talking to the receptionist?
Yeah, you can absolutely ask that. Sometimes the receptionist might say, hey, you know, I'm actually not really that sure. And then at that time, you have to decide like, okay, so do I want to go in and kind of find out for myself, or do I want to seek someone out that I know is, you know, knowledgeable or at least open to seeing trans or non-binary people. It can also be good to...
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like a trans hotline. I know that like in the gay community, like for female doctors, if a friend will ask me, well, who do you go to? Well, who do you like? And what do you like? And what don't you like about her or him? You know, is there like a trans hotline that, you know, a friend will call a friend to make sure? Do you guys have something like that in the trans community?
In a very informal kind of way. Like I'll hear things from people about like different providers, and I'll put it in my my little spreadsheet there that kind of like lets me know, okay, you know, this is a provider who is open but maybe doesn't have that kind of training, or this is a provider that, you know, will see trans people but they won't start hormone therapy, but they will continue someone's already existing hormone regimen, for example. And just kind of knowing those. There are some sites that do list providers, like Trans Care Site, for example, and then, you know, services like such as myself, where you can contact them and say like, hey, you know, are you familiar with any providers in our area that might be a good fit with me?
So what is the age group of the individuals that you guys service at Banzi?
Banzi as a whole, it's all ages. We do serve individuals and families, including very young children and families with infants. For myself, I also will serve anyone of any age, but the age restriction that I do have is around testing. I can only test people that are age 13 or older.
And what about medical needs? I know you guys said you were a 501c3. What if I'm 15 and I don't want my parents to know what's going on? Can I go to you or no?
You can absolutely go to me, and all of our services are always confidential. Anytime I want to share any sort of private information, that is always something that we need to obtain prior authorization from the individual. And we take individual privacy very, very seriously, because, you know, number one, that's just a basic fundamental right in my opinion. But also when you're talking about trans and non-binary people or other LGBTQ individuals, you know, discrimination comes into play. If you're a young person and your parents find out, then maybe you're kicked out of the home, or it creates a very tense environment. You know, so we really need to protect that privacy. We take that very seriously at Banzi.
So at what age does that right for testing kick in? Is there an age? So if I'm 13, if I'm 14, if I'm 12, what age am I able to go and get this testing without parental consent?
You could do that at any age. The main restriction is actually because the testing, the test itself has actually only been approved for people age 13 or older, and so that's why there's that age restriction.
Thank you.
So if I'm 13 and I don't want my parents to find out, because you're the 501c3, does that cost that 13-year-old money?
Nope, all of our tests. No? Yeah, all of our testing is always free to the individual. We will bill through insurance, but anything that insurance doesn't cover, we cover the cost for. And if people don't have insurance, then that's also totally fine. It will never cost them anything.
Oh, that's good to know.
So I have one more question, follow up for that. So if I'm 13, I'm on my parents' insurance, and I don't want you to bill my insurance because it's going to come up on their, you know, they're going to, yeah, it's going to come up on their statement or their deductible or whatever. Then you would do that without billing their insurance?
Yeah, so there's a couple different options in that case. Here in Massachusetts, we have something called the Patch Act. And so that enables you to call your insurance company and say, you know, for all of this protected information around HIV and STI services, I don't want those to be reflected anywhere on anything that you send me or something online. And so they will make sure that all of those are hidden away. So that's one option. Obviously, that's not a perfect option because sometimes things happen. And so in that case, you know, I work with the individual just to make sure that they get free access to testing. So it's never an issue. They will never be charged. We just really want people to have good, solid health information about themselves. So that if there is an issue that's happening, they're able to then take care of that. And we can help connect people with treatment and care, of course. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ellen, you're up.
Me?
Yeah.
All right. So I have a lot of follow-up questions, Tracy, you know that. So as far as not testing, but support with trans issues, medical care and the such, is that all protected information from parents? At what, is that the same, you know, do you have to be a certain age before you can get any type of treatment? You need parental consent? How does that work?
So in terms of people just talking to myself or talking to their doctor, all of those conversations are confidential. Like they can't tell parents, you know, protected health information like that. For example, if there was a young person and, you know, she thought that she was pregnant, for example, the doctor wouldn't be able to go to her parents and be like, oh, did you know your daughter is pregnant? Where age kind of comes into play for medical care for trans and non-binary people, if you are seeking medical transition in the form of like gender-affirming hormone therapy, for example, you have to be 18 in order to start hormones unless you have parental consent. And so that can obviously create, you know, issues for trans and non-binary youth who are looking for those services and just aren't able to access them because their parents are not, or their guardians are not supportive of that.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted people to be aware of that. I think sometimes we feel it's common knowledge in the community, but it's really not. That, you know, these conversations are confidential, they are private, and then, you know, at what age can you receive some of these services, and you have to be 18. But there's a lot that can happen before that is confidential, and HIPAA protects, right, some of that. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I also wanted to talk to you about why this program is so important to you.
Why it's important to me? Well, definitely, I would say a good part of that is my own experience. You know, as a non-binary and trans person, you know, I certainly experienced my share of discrimination and microaggression or just straight up aggression around my gender identity. You know, I had a doctor that wouldn't see me. I had, you know, difficulties in my college experience. You know, my family had a difficult time with my gender identity and transition. You know, and all those experiences kind of led me to a place where I learned the value of community, and I dedicated myself to always being there for people. There were a lot of folks along my journey that were there for me and helped me to find providers or to learn, you know, how do I start hormones, or to figure out like, how do I come out to people, you know, all these different issues. And that kind of mentorship has always existed in the trans community. And I love that about us. It's one of my favorite things about this community is that we find each other, we find these networks, and we're there for one another to support each other because we've all been there. And we know that this is a wonderful journey, and it is also a very difficult one often. And so I've been doing LGBT work for over a decade now, I believe. And I've loved it every step.
So I know I'm going to ask a question offline here, but a year or so ago, we started the Rainbow Club at our community center. We thought it was important that we had parents and their kids come in and get the resources and help, or at least be able to talk to other parents, say, you know what, this is what I'm going through. How are you doing? What can we help? Unfortunately, after the holidays, the group stopped coming. But that's something that we thought was really important to have, and we called it the Rainbow Club. It was really cool. When I went to Eileen one night, and I went in just to visit her, say hi, there's this young girl that, 8 years old maybe? And I'm like, there's no way that was a little boy. There's no way. I would never have been able to tell in a million years until he went to play basketball. Excuse me. When she went to go play basketball, that's when I saw like a little boy in her. But it was just amazing the support that she was getting from her parents. And I just think that's so important. And again, people like 8 years old. Listen, you know, these kids, and if people like, it's a phase, right? I'm gay, it's a phase. We've seen so many kids that are struggling with their life to try to figure out who they are, that get support from the parents and are still struggling because their parents are accepting, but the school is not. You know, the doctor's not. The bus driver's not. So that whole 8 hours of school is hell for these kids. So I just think it's important that if we can help anybody in the community start a group, an organization, we do book clubs, we do all these certain things, we'd be more than glad to do the Rainbow Club again, and get people. Go ahead, Eileen, go ahead.
Definitely. So the Rainbow Club was something that it really was. It was amazing for me as a professional to be part of, to go to that group, to see young children interacting without any expectation, without having to discuss their gender or how they identify, and just be children. And the biggest the best thing I learned from that experience was, we initially I go in and being a lesbian cisgender person, having no real concept of what this is going to look like, and trying to come up with curriculum and how is this going to work. And what I really found out was you learn the most from this age group of kids. Let them play, let them interact. They're going to start the conversation for you. Like, oh, what did you do in school today? What did I do in school today? And everything just happens naturally. And it was so significant for me, and for these kids that actually came to this group, to be able to just say, oh, wow, that happened to me too at school, or I don't like that school anymore, and I don't go to that school anymore, and this is why. And at my new school, I can just be who I am, and no one, thinks about me as that other person. So it was an amazing experience. I was more than happy to do that program again if there's interest. So send them my way. And people always say, at 8, at 7, do they know? They might not be confident in where they will end up as a human being, but they know what they know at a 7 and 8-year-old level. Like, I don't feel like I'm a boy. I feel like I'm a girl. I feel like I'm neither a boy or a girl. I'm just a person. And they can express that at that age. What happens 10 years from now, 5 years from then, I don't know. Everyone has their own story. But just being able to say that in a safe place made a lot of difference for some kids. So if you're interested or know anyone interested in, the group was for LGBTQ youth and their parents. So if you, like I said, if you know anyone interested, parents interested, let me know.
We did up to 13. We did up to 13 because our MBA Agri starts at 14.
Yes.
Using our youth center. Our youth center said, you know what, we're only using it on Thursday nights, and we gave it to I'm also an adult advisor, and Eileen's an active adult advisor for MBA Agri right now. We're like, well, how else can the community use the center? Why should we only pay all this rent to use it one day a week? So we do so much at the center right now, which has been amazing. So before we get the next question, Eileen, you want to read some of the comments?
Sure. Let's see. So I have Monique. Hi, Monique. How are you? Where are you watching from? And I have Heather. Heather wants to do a book club. Can she help? Yes, Heather. If you could get some interest in the book club, that would be great. We have another one coming up. Oh, I don't have the dates in front of me.
Check the website.
29th. Check the website. I think it's the 29th. So check it out. The book is there. It's called Real Life. So yes, if you have any recommendations for books, Heather, let me know. I'm more than happy to set that up. I'm an avid reader, so let me know what your interests are.
I actually got an email the other day asking if I knew any groups for a 12-year-old. And I said, our NB Agli, if somebody writes down their age, they're 14, and they look 13 or 12, we're not questioning that. It's the kids that are over 20, in the 25 age, because most of our kids are high school age that come to our group. But I got another question for you, Jean. So with the Trump administration, care protection for people who are transgender, like, what were your thoughts on that?
I mean, it was definitely disappointing to see that had happened. That was something that's been in the works for quite some time now. And so it was definitely disappointing. And I can talk a little bit about what that means nationally and locally, if that's helpful.
Please.
But, yeah. So just as kind of a background, and I'll just start by saying that I am not like a trans law expert by any stretch of the imagination. So Section 1557 was a non-discrimination provision in the ACA. And so that prevented or prohibited discrimination in terms of both care and insurance, and along several classes, one of those classes being along the lines of sex. And so then, fast forward a little bit, 2016, there was a US District Court in Northern Texas that said, we're going to interpret sex as including gender identity and pregnancy termination services as well. And so at that point, every trans person rejoiced at this news, of course. I mean, that was amazing to hear. But then, as we've heard, the HHS, Health and Human Services, the Office of Civil Rights decided that they're going to drop the gender identity and pregnancy termination services from that sex discrimination clause that's in there. And so how this looks nationally, the Office of Civil Rights has estimated that probably about half of the covered entities are going to drop gender non-discrimination policies that they have since put in place. And then the Williams Institute, which is a really fabulous research group out of the University of California School of Law. They do a lot in terms of trans legal issues. They estimate that about 1.4 million trans adults and about 150,000 trans teens are going to be impacted by this nationally. So obviously that's a lot of people, and for a lot of folks, that's going to mean that they might lose access to health insurance. That's going to cover some of their medically necessary services that are around, medical transition, or even just make it very difficult to get any services. Especially we think about some preventative services, that are on some organs that are typically gendered, like prostate exams or pap smears, things like that. Or even just getting discriminated against for, going in for a heart issue. You could have a doctor saying, hey, I don't want to treat you because you're transgender, which is outrageous, obviously. And so here in Massachusetts, looking a little bit more locally, we are very thankfully in a state where the Massachusetts Division of Insurance and Mass Health have required coverage for medically necessary gender affirming care, and our non-discrimination laws include public accommodations. So for us, that means that all the protections that we have been enjoying in recent years are going to stay there. So you still can't discriminate against your trans or non-binary patients, and you still can't have a health insurance policy that's sold in this state that discriminates against transgender people, with the exception of self-funded plans, is the kind of caveat to that, which is usually your really big employers. So that's kind of the lay of the land for us right now.
In New York just passed a law that they're basically, too bad, you're all covered. So I saw that in the news the other day, that New York trains individuals in health insurance in New York, just like Massachusetts is, which is great.
So this won't impact the services that you're currently providing at this time, health insurance, unless they're out of state covered, right?
Yes, if they have a health insurance plan that's from out of state, it would depend on the state's laws and provisions around health insurance coverage. Or if you are a transgender person who is a Massachusetts resident and you're traveling out of state, if you're in a state that doesn't have non-discrimination based on gender identity, you're still going to be open to discrimination potentially.
Oh my God, think about that. I work in Massachusetts, I have my insurance, I go on vacation to a state, and all of a sudden they break my leg and sorry, I can't help you. I'm like, oh my God. It dawned on me. That's just, you assume they can't help you with my transition. But like you said, if I have a heart attack, oh wow, you're trans, I don't have to serve you. I mean, I think that's heartless.
It is, absolutely, yeah. And laws go a long way, but even with laws, sometimes discrimination still happens, as we know, as LGBTQ plus people. But this at least provides some layer of protection around that, and it gives you some sort of way to address discrimination if that does happen to you.
Is there anything going on in the community right now to support or promote equality for the trans community? Are there any things that people can do to react to this and respond to get these rights back?
Yes, Well, federal offices, they're open to public comment. So you can always call your legislators and you can say, this is outrageous, this shouldn't happen. So I definitely recommend that people do contact the legislators to have their voices heard. I actually recently made a call to mine. It was really quick, simple, and easy. I just called and said, hey, I'm a Massachusetts resident. This is where I live. This is who I am. And I want to, promote this action to and so voices collectively, they matter and they are powerful. So it's good to use our voices, use your votes to make things happen. Thank you.
So, Jean, we're almost out of time tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I am just so inspired by our community right now. Obviously this is such a challenging time for everyone for so many reasons with everything that's happening in our country right now. Just in terms of, coronavirus and a focus on, racial justice. And it's just been so beautiful to see people coming together and calling their friends, calling their neighbors, and just checking in and saying hey, how are you? Is there anything that you need? It's really inspiring, and the power of our community just never ceases to inspire me.
Thank you. Tracy, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that you guys are checking out our Facebook page, our website. Our Facebook page has a couple of extra things that are going on. For instance, when Fall River Pride was last Sunday, we had something for our event page for Fall River Pride. Ours was the Saturday before, which is South Coast Pride. This past Saturday, we helped with the Black Lives Matter Trans March and shared that for Boston Pride. Rhode Island Pride has Resistance and Resilience Rally, Black Lives Matter tomorrow from 4:30 to 7:30 at Cathedral Hill in Providence. Like I said, we're highlighting local prides. So Rhode Island Pride will be Saturday. The next Pride is actually Cape Cod. There's a global Pride. And just found out there's North Shore Pride from Salem. So I sent them a message that maybe we'll be able to promote them. So if you guys know of a local Pride that wants to be highlighted, again, we highlight it on 24 pages, Facebook pages for the stuff that we do. I know it's a lot. But before I talk about the next thing, I just want to get the next two comments. Eileen?
Let's see. So Heather says she has a list of LGBTQ history books she's going to share with me. So that's great. And Heather, my email is up here. It's Eileen at sclgbtqnetwork.org. Send me an email, or you can go on the website, find our phone number, and give me a call. Kate, hi Kate, how are you? The dialogue box is great, but it covers your guest speaker's face. I wonder what that's about, and if that is happening for everybody, please let us know.
That's funny, because when I go back to watch the show later, for the first minute, I just to make sure how I sound, I don't see that. I don't see the box, so I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Max says the HRC has sued for this ruling that we were talking about. And Monique, lots of hearts. Keep up the great work. So thank you, Monique.
Yep.
Tracy?
Yeah, so I'm very excited that next week we have Sarah Cunningham. She's the founder of Free Mom Hugs on the show. When she heard the stories of LGBTQ young people and how they were abandoned by their families, she started Free Mom Hugs. And we've actually used the Mass and New Hampshire chapter. They've come to our Pride events. And our last two youth dances, they have come and helped us chaperone. So I thought it was cool that I kind of reached out to her. And if you guys don't know, Jamie Lee Curtis bought the rights to her book. So I just think next week it's going to be cool, especially ending Pride Month, talking about Free Mom Hugs and giving a shout out to some of the, maybe some of the kids' issues and what some of the kids are going through. So I want to thank everybody, and Eileen.
Yeah, I'm excited about next week's show as well. Thank you, Jean, for joining us. Thank you again for all the information you provided us tonight. Everybody out there, don't forget to watch us next week. Learn about Free Mom Hugs. We'll see you all then. Have a nice week.
Oh, how do they get a hold of Jean? We forgot to say that. Sorry.
Yes. So they can contact me. I have a Facebook page, which is Jean-Denis Couillard Banzi. And they can also email me at tcore@bamzi.org. Banzi is BAMSI. And they can also give me a call, 508-580-0219, extension 314.
And that sounds
Thank
great.
you. Have a
All
great
right,
night, everyone.
bye now.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.